So Sunday, we did the inside of the palate. We started again imagining what that was about. We took our tongue and we started to first of all we started to measure the distance between our two ears, so to speak, or our jaw joints, and then we started to think of measuring it from the inside. And then we started to think about taking our tongue and drawing a line along the upper palate and seeing if we could split the right side and the left side. And there is a suture there. So we did that, going back from the hard palate as far back to the soft palate as we could, and then we came forward again. And then we took the tongue and we pushed it up a little bit, one step at a time, trying to think about whether we have a flat palate or whether there is a dome there. And how big of a dome could we create? We used our tongue to push out the teeth to the right side. We used the tongue to push out the teeth to the left side, noticing how that was different. And then we again continued to feel that tip of the tongue going back towards the back. Then we imagined a paintbrush coming from the center line of the palate to the inside of your right teeth. And then you found another one and you painted that until the whole inside of the palate on the right side, or the left side, the right side this time, was painted. And you had a big, huge dome just on your right side. And then when we did that, did you feel a difference on your right side of your face? Can you feel a difference now? Then we started painting, we began to feel a line coming through our whole body. And we started to paint on the outside all the way around to the back, then over the eye and all the way around to the back, and then over the mouth and all the way around to the back. So we painted our whole side. So the dome is painted on the inside and our whole body is painted on the outside. And again, how does the right side feel versus the left? What could you do differently with your tongue, your jaw? Then we did the same thing to the left. Then we did the voice. And the purpose of the voice was to exhale out through your nose, A, to clear out the sinuses and any of the mucus, and B, try to get to the soft palate so that was vibrating. We did some humming, and again, if you want some steps on this, please email me. We did some humming with the air going, ah, we did ah, with the mouth coming out, and then we did a with the air coming out through the nose, if we could. And then the idea was to keep the air coming out through the nose or through the back palate, and see if you could keep that vibrating as we did an ah through the nose, or an through the back of the palate and through the nose. And then we did ee, and we did all sorts of things, again, trying to vibrate that back part of our palate so that we could open the throat. And then eventually we read some things, but the idea was to ultimately find the ah at the end, go deeper and easier and more open in your throat. So it comes all the way from that breath. So then we did the hugging. And the hugging one was done with, again, feeling that pelvis rolling, feeling that leg coming out like we just showed earlier, bringing that arm over to reach for a $100 bill, but while this arm was across, and then eventually get both arms crossed, and eventually be able to feel ourselves moving. So eventually finding a way to be able to move our shoulders without our pelvis, our shoulders with our pelvis, and then going back and forth, and then seeing if we could differentiate that the pelvis could go one way while the shoulders go the other way, because we want to open up space inside these ribs. we want to get this spine, this thoracic spine, more engaged than just sitting here like we do every day. So we want to get it engaged in the movement as much as we can. So that's what we're looking for, and that's why we want some of the ribs to come with the arm, while the other ribs go with the pelvis. And we worked with that on our side as well as a little bit on our back. And then we reviewed, which you'll see next, the hands-on work, and just in general we reviewed the workshop as well. So hopefully this is a good review for you. Thank you very much for coming again. See you next time. In that sense, we're finding your spine again. So Friday night we did something like this, right? We brought the arm out here and we started to see, does it go back like this? Does it come up? And we watched our partners doing it, right? And we started to think about whether there was movement happening here in the clavicle. Okay, or how much that clavicle is attached to the lower rib, and how much, or not, so, and then therefore, the upper rib, and then this rib, and then this rib. So again, we want to realize we have 12 ribs. And we want to start to think of all those ribs opening up. And however we do that. So today, we started to think about starting with the hand. And one of the things that I said earlier today, and maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't, but one of the things to start with people, because in the homunculus, the hands are so related to the tongue and the mouth, and therefore the jaw, the muscles around that, this would be a good place, if people have TMJ, is to just work with how much tension there is in their hands. Okay, so as I said, I woke up not only with my jaw clenched, but my hands clenched as well in a fist. So isn't that interesting, if you think about the relationship in the homunculus. So here I am, just kind of trying to hold his arm so that he can quiet a little bit, and I'm going through the fingers. But basically then we brought the hand to the shoulder. Okay, then we started to ask him if he could bring his hand up and over to his other shoulder. Yeah, he can do that, but now I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to see if he's going to let me do that for me. So how do I do that? We have to find out whether there's movement in the joint itself. So is there movement in the humerus? So I'm very nicely holding the shoulder blade. And I'm nice and easily lifting the elbow to see, is there movement here in the shoulder joint itself? Is this okay? And then I'm seeing if there can be a rotation in, there can be a rotation out. So I'm just kind of seeing that. And then I'm going to see if I can bring this elbow across his chest, and his hand wants to rest here. Doesn't want to go to the shoulder yet. And that's okay. And then we're going to start to lift the elbow up a little bit and see if that hand can flop next to his neck. Maybe not the shoulder yet. And maybe we'll just leave it right here. Then we can bring this, I'm going to strap his elbow to his ribs so that we can very quietly start to see, okay, he can rest that elbow into his ribs here. I can move it here. I wouldn't want to move it further because then I'd feel a stretch back here. So again, we're looking for bones. And then we're looking to see if those ribs can move at all. Or if they've been so trained, like a dancer's would have been trained, or weightlifters might have been trained, or just a feeling that that's right, to have a really strong torso. And that's okay, it's right. But we also want to be able to have those ribs soften. So he could breathe better. But if he breathes better and is able to breathe better, I don't mean breathe better, but if he opens up his ribs more when he breathes, he'll have more space for his shoulder joint to rest on. Right? So if you look at that rib cage there, his left shoulder blade, there's more space on the ribs on the left side, So his left shoulder blade has more to rest on than the right one does, right? So we want both sides of the ribs to be open. So what I'm asking you to do is, again, then we pause and we just have him notice how that feels different, right? Yes, no, maybe? And can you describe what your experience is? I'm holding his arm because otherwise it would stretch his bicep too much.
Yeah, it's just very comforting and just pleasurable to move in the ranges that are easy.
And do you feel anything different in your breathing up in your right quadrant?
Feels warmer.
Feels warmer.
The breath feels warmer.
Okay, so there's more there. Okay, so again, what we're trying to do here is lift the arm, take the weight, see if there's any movement in the joint itself. Now I have here, I'm facing him. My outside hand is underneath his arm. I'm just saying that because it might be the other arm that you'll work with. And I'm just seeing if we can do this movement here and what happens. Or if I can somehow find a way for that elbow to float up, where would that be? In, out, and can that shoulder blade sort of drop back into the table? And then I put my hand underneath the shoulder blade, and I started to see if the shoulder blade could come with the arm to his chest, to his chest, to his chest, to his neck, and here it is again, and this time it's a little bit more towards the center. Last time it was here. But it was easy to go here. I didn't push it there. For many people it might only be here. But here what I'm doing is I've got one hand underneath his shoulder and one hand on the ribs, and I'm simply moving the elbow into his ribs, his forearm into his ribs, bringing the shoulder blade somewhat in. And now I'm going down and in. I mean, I was going down before, but now I'm going down and in a little bit. And then I'm going to see if that elbow and that shoulder joint itself could come a little bit more. Okay, so then as long as I'm on this side, I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to start to bring the two ends together, the two sides together. Because what I'm looking for is seeing if we can find more space between each of the ribs so that we can do that movement more easily that we did this today, this morning. Maybe this morning. So I'm holding this elbow next to the one rib and I'm using my body to start to move his other ribs together. And I might do a little rocking like in Traeger. You know, that might be something that his nervous system could relate to and start to be easy with and feel more comfortable with. We could do other things. I could bring this arm across and see, well, what would that feel like? And could this arm sort of hold this arm? And then I could have both arms here, and I could rock it across. Could bring it across the ribs. But ultimately, we're trying to see, can the shoulders come together? Can we feel a fold happening at the sternum? Can the sternum go down? And then we're just going to let it see, let it be. So on Friday night, I made the suggestion of putting your hands underneath the shoulder blades. Why? Because when you lift a shoulder blade, what you're looking for is not just the shoulder blade moving, but is it connected to the sternum? Can we bring the two ends together so that we've got more of a centered line to support the head? So remember, we're looking for the house. We're looking to see how the house can feel more centered. So does that make any sense to people? You're looking at me blank. Yeah? 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 I will find out. Because as you work with each other, see what happens. So a heavy head means there's not as much of a connection to the rest of her torso as could be. So again, that goes into the idea of the head on the floor, the pelvis moving, that kind of thing might be helpful, so that she knows where her head is. Now what I'm doing here is, instead of letting her chin stay close to her chest, I'm trying to bring it so that it's parallel to her forehead. So here the forehead's in front of the chin. Here the chin is more or less in line with your forehead. Can you feel that? So again, I'm breathing, because I never know what's going to happen, and I'm not sure I can do this. Okay? But I'm bringing the cervical spine together, and I'm going to see if I can glide it just a little bit up and a little bit down. But I want her nervous system to know that her head is just resting in my hands. So it's not like a cranial kind of thing. So it's just kind of a movement. Is this okay? Good. So you felt that before, it sounds like, right? So now the idea would be, if you were to move your lower teeth in front of your upper teeth, would this be easier? And can you feel that? So we've got two things gliding, is what I'm looking at, right? You got a glide here, and then you got a glide further back. And you coordinate those two things, and voila, right? Your neck at least can experience some separation and some sort of gliding. Did you? Or what was your
Well, I guess that's,
conclusion?
well, it seemed like the presentation, the idea is that if the jaw goes and then the neck, it's gonna like create more space, but I kind of just liked one or the other. Like when you do both of them, I don't experience any sort
Any
of.
more space.
Right. It's sort of like I get the whole jaw forward thing, and it creates this nice space here, and I get the OA glide, and that creates space, but when I do them at the same time, it's not like more
Not here,
pleasurable.
but it happens more here. See, that's what's happening. The cervical is going with it.
And then
And it's going as a chain. So then, so the whole point is you've got your gliding of your jaw a little bit forward. Then we've got the gliding of the OA, but then we want gliding of one cervical, then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Maybe you don't feel that. And that's, okay, that's okay, but that's the idea, that's the visual we want.
No, I feel that. I guess I feel that as irritation though, because I have some issues in there. So maybe that's why I was feeling something different.
Well, that's what we were seeing, and if that was irritating, then you needed to let us know, because you let us do it.
Mm-hmm.
Your nervous system somewhere said, I can do this.
Right.
I don't know, sometimes I don't know the pain level and the irritation level. And that's where the verbal communication comes in. Kids cry, so you know something's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but we are not allowed to cry, right? So we go into that shutdown thing. So just let me know. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
How irritated was it? And does it still stay irritated?
I guess maybe irritated is the wrong word. It just seemed like there was like opening of the jaw joint, opening of the OA, and then something else was happening that wasn't just like opening. So I guess it's when you're moving the cervical
Right.
things that must
Right.
be confusing.
This isn't opening more, that wasn't moving more, you're right. It was just a combination of the two to
Right.
let us move the cervical.
So they all are separate things.
Right.
Having one move more doesn't make the others move more.
Sometimes it does, but with you, it just allowed the cervicals to continue on.
Okay.
And maybe there was more movement in the OA joint, but she didn't feel it. And that's okay too. That's something different. Okay. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Is that clarified? Fill in the- And what would you do if someone came in, that was Donna's question, what would you do if someone came in with TMJ? How would you start after this workshop? What would you do with that person? Check
Trick under the table.
So, first thing, she would check her breathing. All right, good. So, what do you see? Anything? What's moving when she inhales and exhales? What is going on with the jaw? If I were to touch her chin, would it drop easily or no? And so then when I go around to her ears, oh, this is a nice little trick we didn't talk about, but it's a cranial thing. You can start to see, do the ears move? What's going on with that skull ear? So again, you're looking for the territory of her neck, her back of her neck, how far down to the thoracic it goes, what does the tissue feel like. Then you might want to look at her shoulders, and if I lift her shoulders, is there a change in her breathing? Is there anything I've done so far that she goes, at? Not yet. Okay. Then I might come down here and start to look at the pelvis and start to say, okay, here are the two joints. Where are they? So again, we're looking at the land. And for me, I feel like this is a little bit closer to the table than this one. Okay? And we're looking at her breathing. So how is she breathing? And if I were to bring those two ends together, would that support these muscles down here to allow her to breathe a little bit more? And then we talked about going up to the ribs and seeing if just touching the ribs helps her make a difference. Okay, and then we start to ask her to notice how the contact her head's making with the table and if she feels any movement. And a lot of people are not going to be as mobile as she is. Right? So again, when I was doing this, I felt again her head likes to look to the left. That was more towards the table. This is easier to this way. So she's clearly oriented towards her left. Another indication might be if I came down to her legs and lifted her legs and started seeing which leg seems heavier than the other. And this is definitely heavier, so that's her standing leg, so she would be oriented more towards her standing leg. So that's all congruous in a sense. This is all like a waterfall, coming down. It's coming down. Okay, does that happen up here in her shoulders? Not that I experience so much, but that might be an indication. She lifted that shoulder, not so much there. So then I come back here and I start to look, can she go down here? Can she go down here? Can she go down here? And again, I'm not doing any more there. She is starting to help me. So therefore, I go away. Then we talked about using the hand, right? And we did, Friday night, we did that kissing and the smiling, but I don't know, new client, maybe not so smart to ask them to kiss and smile yet. But maybe asking them to notice where their tongue is. So where is your tongue in your mouth? Can you feel that? And could you start to bring your tongue out to your lower lip? Is that a possibility? As I'm working on her hands and seeing, is there rotation in this forearm? Therefore, is there rotation in the bicep? Can we quiet the bicep by creating rotation up here? She breathes a little bit easier when I do that. And remember, all of the work that we do is coming from these lessons that Feldenkrais created. So there you go. This was a lesson. You can use it too. You know, just that whole notion of how well does she bring her hand up here? How well can she keep the 90 degrees? Not so well. So that's okay, because she doesn't know what we're talking about. And she's just kind of feeling what she can do easily. So that psychologically is a big thing for us. What can she do easily, and how can I then help her expand that ability? So then we start to think about taking this elbow up a little bit and being a support system for her whole arm. which again, she has put. She's not sure about me holding that arm. So I'm then going to put her hand on her chest, and I'm going to slide one hand underneath her shoulder. So now I have her whole arm, right? And I'm going to start, what we talked a lot about was this idea that the arm could roll. And if the arm rolls, what happens to the shoulder? That's another lesson that we haven't done, but some people have. But this whole idea that this is a judo trick. You know, you take somebody's hand that is a knife and you move it like that, and they're going to fall, and that arm's going to go. And so are you going to twist that person. So here we go. We can use that little technique a little bit if we want to see if we can bring it across. Now she really wants to help out, so I might put a towel there so that she can then say, oh, she can let it go. And then I might start to put my hand here and start to say, okay. And I'm not using this arm at all right now. I'm just saying, okay, I know I want to bring the ribs, I want to bring awareness to her ribs to help her breathe for A. And then also start to see if we can't help her feel more of a center. So one of the things that's interesting is that we often asked Feldenkrais, why do you keep putting us on our left side first? No, right side first. Because usually when we went on the side, it always seemed to be the right side first. Well, the right side is most people's dominant side. And so he wanted us to experience the movement in the non-dominant side first, feeling as though the dominant side probably knows all the answers, knows what to do because it's doing so much. Whereas the left side is maybe a little less clear. So we would do that a lot. And then, so I'm saying maybe her arm is being held and being guarded so much or trying to help me because that's her, are you right-handed? Don't tell me you're left-handed after all that. But then, so this is much easier. So even though it might have been the shoulder was easier, you discover that this arm can come up much easier in the shoulder joint. And you can bring this over. So could we roll it? Then we can bring it down to roll it. She doesn't know what to do with her head. She doesn't know whether to go to the left or to the right. And so that's going to be interesting. And then you start to, okay, so you start to bring this hand towards her. And so then we started to do that. And again, the idea is to see if we could hook some of these ribs so that we get some movement. Okay, so that this is going down, and then this is going up. Are your eyes glossy, or are we okay with this? Okay. So then we brought this hand here. We brought this hand here, so this is all possible as long as it's possible for the person. And then the idea is, what's the tongue doing? Did the tongue come out to your lower lip as I push your hands down? As I move your hands down? And can I come back? So we could verbally engage them. And then the idea was to see, well, what happens? Can we bring the shoulders? What happens there? Sometimes I like to put one hand on one elbow and the other hand on the other elbow, because that's very clear about the shoulder joint and the shoulder blade, right? That's very clear that this shoulder joint is a little bit different than this one, but we can go around it. And then if it comes up, does she come up with her ribs? Does she keep holding her ribs? So you look at the ribs, and if they're holding, you hold them for her and let the arms come up. And then you bring them back down. And then you see if the arms can then bring the ribs down. So that's when we like to have the crossed arms, but we want to have these ribs soft in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so far so good for the house. Again, we can do a lot more with the torso, the lower torso, but not so much. I mean, we're not doing so much with that. But actually, so now I'm here at the thoracic area and I'm seeing if I can push that up a little bit and then down. We can also go back to that clavicle area. We can go back to the other. And then you come back to this nice, easy movement here in the neck. Just nice and easily pressing. And then you can make little circles around the occipital area, which we talked about today. You can see if the ears open. Now, one of the things with TMJ particularly, which I forget about, I mean, we didn't do it because was the eyes. So now you've got your hands over her eyes and you just ask her for her eyeballs to sink back into the deep sockets. Cool pools of water is what I call it. And see, and as she does that, you can start to see that her head starts to want to turn. Does the soft tissue around her cheekbones start to ease up? And then start to nice and easily have her, after a while, if you want, have her bring her eyes towards the bridge of her nose and then let her have a rest. So I would ask her to do something like that if it was comfortable for her. That's easier than the tongue. To just let the eyes sink. And remember how much that worked. And then what else did we do? We did the actual jaw joint itself. But here we go, and I might not do that the first session except to have her tongue come out to her lower lip if she could. There you go, and then come back. But I would organize the shoulder blades and the ribs and the breathing first, and then bring it. Okay, so now, or you could massage this tongue right in here, underneath the chin. Or you can just kind of make little circles all the way around her soft tissue, all the way around the skull. And then nice and easily bring your tongue out to your lower lip again and see if you can bring the tongue between your lower teeth and your lip. Huh? Oh. And then you might want to make little circles around the bones of the face too. And if you want, you can do all sorts of other things. So now the idea is to lift your head, put your head here like we did before, and start to see if this would go here. If she's willing to do that. And then I would ask her to just see if she could bring her lower teeth in front of her upper teeth. That's it. And then we'd come back. And I would feel what it would feel like in her neck when she brought it back. Okay? And then bring it forward again, just slowly. Think of a roller between your two teeth, you could ask him. And then bring it back. Okay. So then I would try to see where I could bring her head up, and then back. And then could you bring your teeth in front of your lower teeth? And then I would see if it comes up a little bit. Now she helps me. She wants to do it. So just nice and easily, just feel. And it's always a partnership. Maybe it's me. I can't do it. But often I look at it as, oh, how can I get her prepared so she's ready to do it on her own. So if we talk about self-correcting, that's what we're doing. And then you can just bring the elbows up and flop them. Boom, 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 boom. What else did we do? Then we can start to do little things like this and see, well, how does she doing this now? How's she breathing? There you go. And can you start to move your tongue around in your mouth? Oof. And can you all start to see how when her arms come down now, her ribs go down, and when her arms come up, the ribs come up a little bit. And that's what's going to happen, and that's what we want to feel, as though these can be more mobile than most people think, both in rotation and in flexion and extension.
And working with them on the table with touch, are you sometimes just asking them to do the movement without you touching?
I could. It depends again how receptive they are. But in the meantime, I am always thinking of those movements when I'm working. And I'm looking at where's not moving, what's over moving, and so how can we bring the relationship of one to the other. So if the arm's not moving, probably the chest isn't moving, or the shoulder blade isn't moving. So where can we go from there?